Well, it's in the middle of a very difficult war, and Putin has been aiming to basically losing the war on the ground, has been aiming to degrade the electricity in particular, but all the power infrastructure. So, just to give you an example, even though Ukraine has four nuclear plants, I think half of all the nuclear power comes from the Zaporozhye nuclear plant, and that's been in the news long enough. So once that plant is down, Ukraine's been losing more than half of all of its power. Going into the winter is just a way of grinding down Ukraine and trying to achieve something that they cannot achieve on the ground in terms of warfare.
Yeah,
So it's been pretty hard.
it seems so tough. What can they do to buffer themselves, to provide alternative forms of energy?
Well, it's just the help is really coming from Europe. Ukraine in the past used to import at least 30% of its electricity from the rest of Europe. That's one sort of lifeline, but that's not sufficient. The rest is really coming from generators, old-fashioned diesel generators, and that's the best they can do at the moment.
Yeah. How common in your experience or knowledge is this in a war to target infrastructure like this, to leave people so vulnerable? And even now, it's an unprecedentedly cold winter, and this is just the end of November.
Well, I'm not sort of warfare expert, but in regional warfare, it hasn't been the case. I mean, it has been the case in the two great wars, First World War, Second World War. But in regional warfare, it really hasn't been the case. I mean, the reason Putin is doing this is simply because he's got no other military options left, I think. So he's just trying to basically degrade the power system as much as he can.
Adi, let's talk a little more now about the Russia oil price agreement. Where are negotiations, and what are they trying to accomplish with these discussions?
Right. First of all, European Union several months ago passed sanctions on Russian seaborne exports that come into force on December the 5th. That's essentially banning all the services to Russian oil exports. Now, that's a very, very serious a problem for Russia because Russia cannot simply use other ships, brokers, any service, most importantly, insurance associated with which purchases and moves of crude oil. Now, the idea of a price cap came originally from the U.S. administration, and what what that really is, it's essentially a way of watering down the European sanctions, because Biden administration doesn't want Russian supplies to actually fall because that would increase the price of oil and prices of gasoline, which are absolutely essential for him in the United States. The problem is now between the G7 countries. Some people in Europe would like to have that oil cap as low as possible, so the Russia doesn't get the revenues. However, Russia's made it absolutely clear they're not going to sell this oil under these caps and to the countries that are actually imposing price caps. So the fear for Biden administration is that oil supplies will slow. So I think the discussion is to keep simply a political fudge, to keep the oil price cap roughly where the oil trades anyway, so it doesn't have any impact and the Russian oil continues to flow. That's the disagreement. Some European countries, especially like Poland and the Baltic states, don't particularly like that. United States support it, and that's why we still haven't actually. This cap's been discussed for months, and we have no idea what that cap is. And we're now almost starting to trade February loading oil, but December cap has still not been imposed. So it's a big mess in the oil markets at the moment.
And, it shows us just how difficult it is to effectively cut off that supply and really damage Russia's revenue flows.
Well, absolutely, Beverly. The problem is, like we know from '73, when the Arab nations imposed embargo to some Western countries, that it's extremely hard to do because oil is a very fungible commodity. It's just black stuff. Once it's on the ship, it could be from anywhere. It could be going anywhere. So, especially for Europe, to impose some sort of difficult sanction is very hard because European is just a buyer in the very fungible global oil markets.
Yeah. Adi, have you noticed today that there's been a surging in oil prices largely due to these protests in China? So, there is so much instability and volatility for such an essential commodity.
Absolutely. Volatility has been name of the game, not just for oil or gas as well. And the political involvement, especially what has been, I think, more harmful than good. Gas is a very good one. Oil is an excellent one because for oil, for example, China is absolutely essential. It's the biggest marginal buy in the whole market. So as soon as these protests started on Saturday, I think I tweeted, I said, no, this is not good for Monday oil market or any other markets. And indeed, the markets come off about 3% this morning. So the uncertainty is not very good. But China, again, the COVID situation in China is very troubling because once people are locked down, they can't travel, they can't, and oil is primarily automotive fuel globally. So people can't travel, can't go to work, and the economy slows down. Oil prices keep falling.
Yeah. Oh, it's just sort of a year where you just feel like the stability is just so hard to accomplish. Good to speak to you again, Adi. Thanks so much.
You're welcome, Beverly. Bye.